Hi everyone, it's A Ticket to Christ. Thank you for tuning back in. We're enjoying God's presence and we're focusing on that God has a great sense of humor. He's funny and fun. Fun to be around, fun to know. And I think of practically when Jesus was here on earth, that it must have been so exciting being around him and hanging out with him. We're in Matthew 14. Let's see, we're picking up from verse 25. It says, "And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus." So we can pause there with this. And these were some fishermen. So they were rough and tumble. They were not bookworms. They were not working in an office. They had seen a lot. And they were young. They weren't old fishermen. They were young. But being around that type of life, they would have seen a lot. They would have been accustomed to the outdoors. And, I just think of when Peter started to walk himself on water, just how amazing it must have been. Of course, he sank, and we know the rest of the account. But in reflecting upon it, I bet you they had a really good laugh about that, and just he must have marveled at it. I think as well, there's another account where Jesus was asleep in the boat, and the winds and waves flared up, and they woke Jesus up, and he commanded the wind and waves to be still, just commanding the elements, and the elements had to be still. And of course, just before walking on the water, Jesus fed the multitudes, 5,000, at least 5,000 men, using 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And so we just see miracles and exciting things happened around Jesus as a habit, as regular life, right? And just how life with God, a life lived well with God, close to God, is also an exciting life. Like God powers every moment to make it more fulfilling. So if whatever you do, when you're doing it in the presence of God, it's more fulfilling, it's more exciting. It's you have a deeper sense of satisfaction from it. And so a lot of times I marvel at those people who say they're atheists and claim that, heaven must be boring. They can't imagine what they would do there. And I'm thinking that has got to be one of the most foolish statements ever made. So the God who created earth is going to create a better place with more things than where he is in heaven, and that his ability to, it doesn't even make any common sense. You have the ability to create something like earth. Of course, heaven is going to be 10 times better, or more powerful, or beyond our imagination, because we're limited in a dimension and set in time and space, right? So even what they're saying doesn't make any kind of a common sense, because they're thinking that, the best that we have here on planet Earth, or within our realm, or humanity's ability to conceive, that's the best there is, which is completely false, completely wrong. And I think that in seeing how Jesus, when people were around him, the things that happened, you can even get a little bit of glimmer of that. And there are many other things, I believe, that were not recorded, because in the book of John, he said so at the end. In John 21, he says that there were many things that I'll turn there and just read really quickly exactly what he said, so that I don't, get it wrong. But in essence, he said, and there's it's John 21, verse 25. He says, and there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen. Right? So they must have seen many other things happen. Then, remember the parable, the account whereby Jesus went to the wedding and turned water into wine because his mother asked him to? Like, how did she know to ask him to do that? It meant that she was accustomed to seeing him being able to do these types of things. Just the excitement of spending a day with Jesus, seeing the dead raised and people being healed. And that's why multitudes were consistently coming wherever he showed up. Word of mouth spread. And so I think that in our walk with God, I think it's important for us to think about that God himself is exciting. We see that demonstrated through Jesus, but he's also fun. And he has an amazing sense of humor. You can see it in some of the examples Jesus gave, but you can also see God's sense of humor in his creation. I saw a fish once which had a smile on its face, and that's how the fish was. It had this smile, and it made me smile. And I thought, wow, God has such a great sense of humor. I just felt this happiness, this joy when I looked at that fish. And so many other different creatures in creation. You see certain types of birds and different types of, even an elephant makes me smile just looking at it. These things make me think about who God is, that he would have such an imagination, but all of these things made with such love, with such care, with such attention to detail. You see his love through that. You see his joy when you look at these different aspects of creation. So I think today it's I think it's a good time to just really reflect on that. It's not a lot of times that people talk about God being fun, God being exciting as a being just in himself. And so I think the important part is the takeaway is knowing that he powers our journey, our day, so that it's not monotonous or mundane or boring or hopeless, but a day in the presence of God lights everything up, makes it exciting, gives it meaning, gives it value, gives it purpose, and brings immense satisfaction. So that is it from me. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. Have a great day.